expecting that. What I wish I knew before running a marathon. I had loads of questions from people asking me how my experience was training for my first marathon and what the race experience was like as well. So I thought today I'd go into 5 things that I wish I'd known before training for and before racing my first marathon. And then after that, I'm going to go into 5 other things that I did already know, but that I think are really key, useful pieces of advice for people who are just about to start training for their first marathon, maybe thinking about it, or they're preparing for that big race day. Number 1, the plan will not go perfectly. So assuming you've got a coach, or at the very least a training plan by this point, don't feel like you need to follow that plan word for word, day by day, down to a T. When I was training for my first marathon, I thought I had to follow the plan down to a T and get everything right to get the result that I wanted. But that's just not the case. It's far better to shift things around and change the plan as you need to, rather than getting injured or digging yourself a hole in the process. Number 2, you are going to be hungry all the time. This one caught me off guard a little bit, but I suppose looking back, it's not actually that surprising because you're training so much more, you're running more miles, you're in the gym more, you're going to be using so much more energy, so you need to be taking in more energy as well. So just be prepared to be hungry at all hours of the day and the night as well. Number 3, it is going to take over your life. There were so many times during my marathon build-up that I had to turn down social invitations or not go to events that I really wanted to go to because you just have to prioritise that recovery, more time sleeping, and the actual time that it takes to devote to the training. So just be prepared for it to take over your life a little bit. You're not going to be able to socialise like you normally would. Number 4, it's going to be an emotional roller coaster. See what I did there? I think I was prepared for the emotion of training and the ups and downs of training for something because that's what it's like when you're training for any distance. But what I wasn't prepared for was the emotional roller coaster of the actual race day itself. Finishing that race and the sense of achievement of finishing my first marathon was such a high. I honestly cannot compare it to anything else. But the post-race crash is something that I definitely didn't expect. And I was sort of a little bit lost for a few weeks where I just had to reframe and find something else to focus on and to keep me motivated. So just be prepared for the day itself and the aftermath post-race to be quite emotional in both a good and a bad way. Number 5, your training partners or any company you can get is going to make training so much easier. Some of my best sessions and my best runs in my marathon build-up were the ones where I had the best company or people around me helping out, and I really hadn't appreciated how much help just having company throughout those sessions or those runs would really be in getting the most out of that session. So get yourself some training partners, join your local club or get friends and family involved. Just having someone with you, whether they're running or on the bike, is so helpful, especially when you get into those long, rainy, wet runs that you just don't want to get out the door for. So that was 5 things I wish I'd known before starting my first marathon training block. Now I'm going to talk about 5 things that I already knew but that were absolutely integral to that first marathon. Number 1, cross-training is just as important and beneficial as running all those miles. For me, cross-training is the reason why I was even able to start training for a marathon in the first place. My legs just can't handle the really high mileage, so as I add bits of cross-training into my typical week as well, I get that aerobic training in, but I'm also able to recover. So don't be afraid to supplement some of those miles and those runs with a few days on the bike or on the cross trainer as well. Number 2, expect the unexpected. See, I bet you weren't expecting that. What I mean is that anything can happen on race day. So for me, I had a bit of stomach trouble partway round, and this culminated with me projectile vomiting 400 metres from the finish. Not ideal, but it did actually help me kick in for the finish. So if something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. It is a marathon, not a sprint. So if you get cramp halfway round and have to walk a little bit, or you don't get a great start because it's really busy and everyone's jostling, just don't worry about it. Stay calm, focus on the task in hand, and hopefully by the time you cross the finish line, anything that has gone wrong will become so insignificant and will just add to the memory of the day. Number 3, halfway is not 13.1 miles, it is 20 miles, or 32k. The amount of times I was told this by other marathon runners or people that just have so much more experience than I do, yet in my first marathon I got to the 13.1 mile mark and thought, great, I'm halfway. 20 miles is definitely the halfway point for effort and for pain, so if you can get that into your head and just mentally prepare yourself, then it's going to be really helpful for the pain that's to come for that last 10k. Number 4, fueling and hydration are going to be absolutely key come race day. Now, in order to do this, you're going to need to practice your fueling strategy in training so that you know that it works come race day. When I raced the marathon, I was in the elite start, so I had drink stations where I could provide my own bottles with my fuel in there for me to pick up. And the likelihood is that if you're doing a mass or major marathon race, that's probably not going to be the case. So what you can do is look up what fuel is being provided at the race, if they do provide gels or drinks at stations for you, and test that brand out in training beforehand. I'd also recommend testing out different brands of gels and chews that you can carry on your person in training as regularly as you can leading up to that race. I tested out my fueling strategy every single week in the lead up to my first marathon. So that's 14 sessions or long runs where I practiced picking up that drink, testing that it was the right amount and that I could tolerate the drink, it tasted okay, and that it would actually get me to the end of that session, that run, or inevitably the marathon come race day. Number 5, it's going to hurt. 10 minutes to go, 10 minutes in the ice bath. Unfortunately, a marathon is going to hurt for a lot longer than 10 minutes. Not the whole way, the first half should feel quite comfortable, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to be really, really painful. So just acknowledge that, know it, be prepared for it, and when it comes in those latter stages, embrace the suck and just know that when you cross the finish line, the pain that you will have endured will make it so, so much more worth it. So, those are the 5 things that I wish I knew before running a marathon, and the 5 things that I think everyone should know before they run a marathon. Hopefully that's useful to you and you found this video insightful if you are training for a marathon, thinking about training for one, or actually preparing to line up for race day. And I really hope that you enjoyed this sort of new, different format of a video. If you did and there are other things that you would like to know in terms of advice or my experience, let me know in the comments section below and maybe it'll be a future video. If you did like the video, make sure you hit that like button, and if you haven't yet, please do consider subscribing. I'm honestly amazed that there are over 3,000 people regularly coming to watch my videos now. Slightly mind-blowing, but thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you. And I'm sure a lot of you have come over from This Messy Happy's recent video where Mary mirrored my training for a week. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll link it up here or on the end slate. It's a cracking video. I've watched it so many times, and Ben and Mary have got some really brilliant videos on their channel, so go and check them out. So by the time this video comes out, we're going to be 6 days out from my next race, the night of the 10,000 metre PBs at Highgate. So looking ahead to that race, next week's video is going to be a taper week diary into me preparing for that race, what I'm doing training wise, and how I'm feeling in the lead up to that race. If you are in and around the London area next Saturday on the 14th of May and don't have any plans, or even if you do have plans, frankly, cancel them. Come down to the track and witness the Glastonbury of 10,000 metre running. My race is at 8:45 p.m, but the racing action starts from 3 o'clock in the afternoon and goes all the way into the night. There's going to be entertainment on offer, there'll be loads of food, lane 3 beer and cheer, and if you haven't been to that event yet, speak to someone who has and they will tell you that it is an absolute spectacle that is not to be missed on the racing calendar. I'll put some info in the description below, but if you haven't got plans, get yourself down there, and if you see me there, come over and say hi. Is that everything? Bye! Bye!
Look at all these chickens.